You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, Locked On crossover with Locked On Auburn and Locked On SEC. I'm Zac Blackerby, Chris Gordy. Man, it's an interesting time of year. It seems like we kind of go through this every March with basketball going on. But before we move into basketball, Gordy, I want to hear your thoughts on what the SEC did as far as placing the coaches in order for the SEC Media Day schedule that's coming up this summer. And they did our guy Bryan Harsin wrong again, putting him in the third day, or the final day rather, when everybody is gone. Do you think that's ever intentional? Do you think the SEC does that stuff intentionally, or just kind of works out?
Yeah, I think you said it wrong. You said they did him dirty. No, they did him right. They did him a favor. They're getting there when everybody's gone. Like the worst thing they could have done was Tuesday, right before Nick Saban, Bryan Harsin,
fair enough,
Dennis Dodd, and everybody will have their microphones in your face. Bryan, what the hell is going on at Auburn? What's with this girl, that supposedly you're messing around with? What's with all your assistants jumping ship? What's with your defensive coordinator leaving for less money? Like, I don't know, just like all these things that they could have asked. I think they're going to slide him in on Thursday. They may do Jimbo Fisher, Josh Heupel, and slide in Bryan Harsin in that last slot, and then have Harsin get up there and go, hey, guys, I'm just going to talk really quick, make a quick statement, and we got to get out of here. Our plane's leaving. We got to go. So,
right. I mean, he did such a good job last year of just filling the time. I think he only took 3 questions because he talked for so long.
Mm-hmm. The ultimate filibuster. That's what some of these coaches are so good at.
But Freeze did that really well, right? Wasn't Hugh Freeze, like, didn't he literally read the roster that year?
Oh yeah, like a lot of them run through. Like Les Miles used to do it too. Les Miles would give you an update. He'd go, "I want to update you on the Miles family vacation. We went to Destin for a week," and it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like. And then he gets to, talks about his football team, breaks down the entire offense, defense. On special teams, we bring back a kicker. I'm like, no one cares, dude. Like, just get to questions.
Right. But, I mean, it's still going to be a fun week, I think. I mean, starting things off on that Monday with Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin. I guess Drinkwitz will be there, but no one will care. But I think that's going to be an extremely fun day. With Tuesday, you mentioned Nick Saban. And then, obviously, Mike Leach is always super interesting. And I think people are going to care a little bit more about what Shane Beamer has to say.
Yeah.
And then
rising star.
Yeah. He really impressed me. I'm really surprised with what they're doing at South Carolina. And then Wednesday, Sam Pittman.
Wait, you didn't say Clark Lee.
Right. No, that was on purpose. Do you want to talk about Clark Lee, Gordy? You want to talk about Clark Lee for a second?
The only thing I'll say for Vanderbilt this year is we pride ourselves every year with Locked On SEC getting, a different player on from every school. Last year, Vanderbilt was the only school we didn't get an interview with a player because they didn't bring their players down to Radio Row. And my thing was, dude, you went winless. You went 0-10 in the conference 2 years ago. Like, you should have been. Remember Derek Mason every year at SEC Media Days? He would literally go to booths and be like, "You guys want me?" Like, he was for the brand of Vanderbilt, trying to promote any way he can. Clark Lee and them, they're like, "Oh, no. The less PR, the better." Like, no, man, you need to get any kind of positivity for your program right now.
I'm right there with you. But yeah, I skipped over him on purpose. But I appreciate you calling me out. Accountability is important, Gordy. Thank you. Wednesday, I love Sam Pittman. I could listen to that guy talk all day long. Billy Napier is obviously going to be super interesting. It'll be his first media days in this role. And then Kirby Smart, the defending national champ. And then Mark Stoops doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but it's still, Kentucky's always going to be an interesting team. And then,
you missed an opportunity there with Pittman, Napier, and Smart. You got 3 country accents, and then you got Mark Stoops, who's the Ohioan, who sounds Midwest. Like, I wish they could have slid in, I don't know, some, another, like Jimbo. Jimbo would have been perfect. All the Southern voices.
That's right. And then that Thursday, the finale will be Auburn's Bryan Harsin, then Josh Heupel with Tennessee, and Jimbo with A&M. So yeah, I am going to be curious to see if people stick around for Thursday just to press Bryan Harsin, but most of the time Thursday, there's nobody there at that point. So we'll see.
It's exciting. It's going back to Atlanta because you get to be by the College Football Hall of Fame, and experience all that. I know, went back to Birmingham last year. And then there's talk, of possibly going to Nashville and other cities around the SEC after that. And so that'll be really interesting to see what happens there. But at least being in Atlanta, right by the College Football Hall of Fame, they actually had, when we were there a couple of years ago, they had a lot of fans that came out and wanted to be around. And we know at the Winfrey in Birmingham, a lot of fans congregate in the hotel lobby. They couldn't do that last year with COVID, but I think we'll get a little bit more a return of the fan presence this year. And you're right. I mean, on Thursday, will any Auburn fans make the drive over to Atlanta to come rally around Harsin, or are they going to come and chant at him? What was the famous 5-19 that guy yelled at?
Oh gosh, I don't know. We saw fans rally at Toomer's Corner for about 20 minutes one afternoon a few weeks ago when we were at the peak of the Bryan Harsin drama. So maybe that same group of folks goes over to Atlanta to support him. But man, I tell you what, folks are buying in a little bit more. And I was kind of in the fence of, okay, I don't think they should fire this guy, but he needs to do more. And Gordy, I think ever since Auburn's kind of publicly come out and said, like, no, we're retaining him, like he's still our coach, I think he's done a lot of the right things. I think he's changed his approach with recruiting. I think he's changed his approach as far as messaging and PR and kind of being a face of the football program. I think he's done a whole lot better with a lot of things. It's not a situation where you're going to be able to just snap your fingers and it'll all be okay. But I think it's a lot better than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago at Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and I like the Ike Hilliard hire. I'm interested in the coordinators just from a standpoint in these are his guys. Somebody I was talking to recently was talking about how with Derek Mason and Mike Bobo, it was kind of almost like those were suggested hires to him, like, hey, these guys would be great to help you make the SEC transition.
Right
now with Schmedding and Keesaw, these are my guys that I'm familiar with, and now this is fully my show. So it will be interesting to see how much things change now, because there was no outside influence, I guess you would say. Like there's not going to be many times I feel like that they're in meeting rooms that all these coaches are not all on the same page. You know what I mean? Like these are my guys. They know how I operate. I know how they operate. And I think we're all going to be on the same page moving forward. I'm sure there were times last year where Harsin butted heads with Bobo on philosophy or in-game decisions. And then same thing with Derek Mason too, probably. So now it's fully on him. Like, these are my guys, and we better all be on the same page.
Is that always a good thing, though, for everybody to be on the same page? I mean, I think there needs to be kind of that conversation, right, where you can bring ideas and different ideologies to things. And that's the part where I think a lot of Auburn fans are a tad concerned about it. I think some folks are like, well, they're just going to say yes to whatever Bryan Harsin wants to do. He's not going to get challenged on anything, which is probably not fully true, but I bet it does lean towards that direction. And I think that is a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think back to Ed Ogeron when he got the LSU job. He wanted to think outside the box, go with a big name hire in an OC, and they went with Matt Canada, and they brought him in. And man, from day one, Ogeron was butting heads with Matt Canada.
Yeah,
he got rid of him and said, "All right, I'm just going to promote." I know Steve Ensminger really, really well. He's our tight ends coach. Me and him go way back in the day. I'm just going to promote him to OC. Guess what happened? Cohesion. They were on the same page. Mm-hmm. And, look, I know they ended up making the hire with the quarterbacks coach, but Steve Ensminger was the OC of the national championship team at LSU. And so I think sometimes the cohesiveness of everybody being on the same page, and I'm not saying like be passive. I won't say you won't disagree on things at times, but I just feel like, again, that go back to that word continuity. These are my guys, and we know how each other operates, and we're going to ride, or either we're going to sink or we're going to swim together, but at least we're all rowing this boat together.
Yeah. And I thought it was a great move just because, okay, we're going to know if this works or not in 2022, the way it's currently set up. And I think that's important for the future of this program. Gordy, let's talk basketball in just a second, if that's okay. But first, let's talk about our good friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best protein bar ever. Gordy, what is your favorite flavor of Built Bar?
Probably cookies and cream. I was a
Good
mint
one.
brownie fan for a while. I mean, you really can't they're all covered in chocolate, so you can't go wrong with any of them.
That's true. That's true. I'm not a huge mint fan, but I love the chocolate stuff. I love the peanut butter. And then some of the bars, they kind of got a little fruity flavor as well. Those are delicious. And all the bars are low in calories. They're high in protein. They're low in sugar. So be sure to check them out. Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That is LOCKED15 for 15% off. That is at built.com. Gordy, we're going into the final week of the college basketball season before championship week, which, I mean, it's about to get really fun here if you're a sports fan. But the SEC is still extremely close. Auburn has a 1-game lead, and then there are 3 teams right behind them: Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. You cover this league better than anybody. What are your kind of big picture interpretations and expectations for this final week of the season?
Well, for Auburn, it's a chance to get right. I mean, Mississippi State has played a little bit better as of late. They've won 3 of their last 4, but it'll be a nice test with Auburn having lost. Is it 3 straight road games? It'll be a nice test to go to Starkville and get that bad taste there. About the big thing to me with Auburn has been, I haven't looked at the stats to back it up, but I bet they would. Is it just me, or had they not shot the 3 well at all on the road as of late? Like,
it's been bad.
It feels like they've missed all their threes that they were making earlier in the year. So, yeah, I want to see that. I want to see consistency. Them going to Mississippi State, shoot the 3 ball, get the win. But then you come home against South Carolina. And again, South Carolina's played better lately, but I still feel like these are 2 teams that Auburn should absolutely demolish, win this thing out, win the regular season SEC title and take this thing into the SEC tournament. But no, it's so interesting with that log jam that's clogged behind them with Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee, because, man, all these other teams have, like Kentucky, this may be Calipari's most complete team he's had in a handful of years at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Arkansas, man, like, what can you say? Eric Musselman just, like, they sputtered a little bit earlier in the year, and then they just ran roughshod through this.
They figured it out, man. Yeah.
And then Tennessee, they stumbled a little bit early, dealt with injuries and all this, and now they've really figured it out, and they're like unbeatable at home. So, man, I can't say enough about the hierarchy of the SEC. It's the top 4, and then you got Bama and LSU, who at times look really good. We had high expectations for both of them to start the year.
Yeah.
And I think they'll both get in too. So I think you'll have all 6 of these teams in the SEC tournament. I mean, in the NCAA tournament, but LSU and Alabama are dangerous teams. If they're in a 6 seeds or 7 seeds, like, I think those are teams that could pull off some big upsets. So I guess what I'm saying is the depth of the SEC this year, if they get 6 teams, maybe 7 if Florida goes on a run or something like that. But, like, I think we're talking about a potential for a handful of SEC teams in the Sweet 16 this year.
Give me your power rankings for those top 4 teams in the conference. So Auburn, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Give me your power rankings 1 through 4.
God, man. That's a great question. I guess a week ago, I would have had Auburn 1. I would have had Kentucky 2. I would have had Arkansas 3, and I would have had Tennessee 4. Now, with the way things happen this weekend, despite losing the road games, my opinion, I don't think changes on Auburn. I still think they're the best team in the SEC. I still think they're one of the best teams in the country.
Okay.
Kentucky really fought hard in that game where they fell behind, and then they fought and made it a game with Arkansas. Tennessee's here's the thing with Tennessee, they're gonna lose the home field advantage going to the tournament because you have no home court anymore. So that may hurt them. But I would probably go right now, if I was ranking them, I'll probably still go Auburn 1. I may go Arkansas 2, Kentucky 3, Tennessee 4.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd be okay with you putting Arkansas at 1. I think what Arkansas is doing right now, I don't think anyone would want to play them.
Yeah, JD Note has been, I've said it for weeks that he's been my quiet dark horse for SEC Player of the Year. He's not going to win it, but he's been one of the best players in the SEC all year. Jalen Williams has stepped his game up. He's dominated down low. So, like, they just play so hard, man. El Musselman's such a good coach. When they hired him, I said, this is a home run hire for Arkansas. And it really, man, from the top to bottom of the SEC, like, even the bad teams in the SEC have good coaches. Like Tom Crane was a hell of a coach at Indiana, and now he's like terrible at Georgia, but I think he's still a good coach.
Gosh, I hope Georgia keeps him. I hope Georgia never fires him.
I think he's going to be gone. I think he's
Yeah,
going to
I'm
be
sure he
gone.
will be. Yeah.
I think Kwanzaa's in real trouble at Missouri. Vandy, I think, is okay. But I think all the other schools are fine. But the point I'm making is like
I think Vandy's overachieved a little bit, actually.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen Jr. has been incredible. I mean, like the other night he had 30-something points and his team had 60. Like he had over half their points. It's like, what is happening?
That guy is awesome.
But no, the point being, like, this might be the best assortment of coaches we've had in SEC basketball ever.
Right.
Or at least in a really long time. And so it's what we see in football, Zach. Like, it eats itself alive. Like, who was my guy? Brett Bielema, I thought was a hell of a coach, but the SEC ate him alive at Arkansas. He couldn't beat the really good teams in the conference. So, no, I say all that to say I do think this is a year, and the SEC had a couple teams that went far last year, but I think this year, if you're filling out your bracket in a couple weeks and you don't have at least 3 SEC teams in your Sweet 16, I think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I was on another podcast yesterday, and they asked me about the teams that would be in the Sweet 16 from the conference. And I made the case for 5 different ones. The 4 that you just ranked in your top 4, and then Alabama, because I think Alabama gets out of the first weekend. And it's like, wouldn't that be crazy if there were 5 SEC teams in the Sweet 16?
Well, and LSU, Tari Eason has played phenomenal for them. They got Xavier Pinson back at point, who's actually, when he was out, their offense went to hell, and now it looks legit again. I mean,
he's an important part of that team. There's no question.
It's just, I can make a case for outside of the top 4. I can make a case for Alabama and LSU. And I mean, yeah, legitimate 6 teams that if you told me they were in the Final 4 this year, I would not be surprised.
Final 4. Really? You'll go as far as to say Final 4 for any of those teams?
I think Auburn, absolutely. I mean,
right?
Jabari Smith's insane. Auburn expectations going into the tournament. Auburn should have Final 4 hopes.
Auburn, Kentucky, and Arkansas, I'm fine with saying they have a chance to go to the Final 4. The other ones, I kind of pause a little bit.
Well, again, it all depends on what you're doing and who your matchups are, right? I mean, that's a big part of it. If LSU's a 7 seed, I saw one of the projections that's out has them as a 7 seed playing Davidson as a 10 seed, and then they get Duke in the next round. Well, it's Coach K's final run. They're good. Duke is going to get every call throughout the tournament because they know, those refs know this is Coach K's swan song. So expect Duke to go ahead and pencil Duke into your Elite 8 right now. That's different. But no, I think obviously Auburn's got the pedigree. Arkansas, Kentucky, obviously Calipari, he's been there, done that. And like I said, I think this is one of his best coaching jobs. Oscar Tshiebwe is a monster. He's going to win SEC Player of the Year.
He's he's awesome.
But Arkansas too. Arkansas had that fantastic run last year, and again, a lot of that experience back. JD Notae was on that team. That they got a lot of those guys back, and I could see them doing it as well. So. I'm being a little bit homerific, but I can be unbiased and take a step back and say, look, Gonzaga is going to probably be there. Baylor's going to probably be there. There's teams you could pencil in, but I think the SEC has a good shot at anybody to make a deep run.
Right. And so you mentioned filling out your bracket, Gordy. The best place to fill out your bracket is runyourpool.com. Don't go to any of the common places. Go to runyourpool.com. It'll take 2 seconds to create a pool, whether it's for your family, your workplace, your friends, whatever it may be. And clearly we believe in Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there, Gordy. So you can compete with me, you can compete with Gordy, you can compete with any of our hosts across the Locked On College channel. Just go to runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, make your own pool for your friends and family. Enter the code Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. But yeah, that's runyourpool.com/lockedon. If you win, you get a chance at some cash prizes. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon. Also, today's show brought to you by our friends at rockauto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for all of the local chain auto parts stores to keep all the parts available for your car, truck, or SUV. So you're going to go to these stores and they're going to do the same thing you could do. They're going to order the part and then you got to go pick it up, or they'll order it and send it to your house. And it's like, just do it yourself. Skip the middleman and go to rockauto.com. You'll save a ton of money at rockauto.com. And when you go there and see all the parts available for your car, truck, or SUV, right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. That is at rockauto.com. Gordy, from an Auburn perspective, this could be an historic week for the Tigers. They have won the SEC regular season championship 3 times. And the last time they shared it with Tennessee, because the SEC does this weird thing where they don't like to do tiebreakers, even though they were tied with Tennessee and they beat Tennessee on the road, but still it was a shared thing. Whatever. Very odd thing to me. But they have a chance to win it outright this week. They've got to take care of business Wednesday night against Mississippi State. I think that's a really tricky game because Mississippi State is surprisingly good at home. I think they're 14-2 at home right now, which is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And so that's going to be a tough one. But the fact that they get to clinch it potentially at home against South Carolina could be a really cool thing that happens in Auburn. And so, what do you how likely do you think that is, Gordy?
We talked about it earlier. I think they've got the easiest draw of any of the remaining teams, that are up there. And so again, like the fact you're a game up on Arkansas, on Kentucky, on Tennessee, and I feel like winning at Mississippi State and beating South Carolina is a little bit easier. When you talk about Arkansas, they got to host LSU. They got to go to Tennessee to finish out their schedule. Kentucky, they got to play Ole Miss, but then they got to go to Florida, which is never an easy one. And then of course Tennessee, we mentioned they play Arkansas, they play at Georgia. They'll win that one. Georgia stinks, but I think of the 3, Auburn's got the easiest draw. And so, yeah, this is an easy situation. Take care of your business, win these last 2 like you're supposed to. And again, I think, that thing that's been written about and drawn up, 3 straight road losses for Auburn. I think that rings true. And they go, look, let's go win in Starkville. Starkville with the cowbells going on the football field, maybe that's a little bit different story. But on the basketball court, Iverson Molinar's been really good for them. But I would say Auburn, man, go play your ball, take care of business. You'll win these last 2 and win the SEC.
What do you make about evaluating and, judging the greatness of a team? Would you rather see a team win a regular season championship or an SEC tournament championship? Which one do you think has more weight to it?
Oh, the regular season, no doubt. It's because it's a level playing field in that, like, everybody plays one another. You all play tough schedules. And so if you can gut it out over the length of a season and you prove that you want it, that's what you're hanging banners with. Don't get me wrong. The SEC tournament is fun. But every year we see it. Some team gets hot and can run through it. A team that didn't win the regular season title busts through and wins the SEC tournament. It is what it is. If they did, put it this way, Zach, if they did away with the SEC tournament tomorrow in basketball, I don't think many people would shed a tear because it's weird, right? Like, we crown a champion of the regular season and then we crown another champion of the SEC tournament. It's like, I remember years ago, Georgia ran through one. It's like, and they punched their ticket to the tournament. It's like, yeah, great. You won 4 games. Like, you should have played more consistently throughout the regular season and maybe you would have, punched your ticket without having to do that. So I don't want to discredit it. And look, Auburn may win both. They have the talent and they could do both. But no, to me, the regular season title just means that much more.
Yeah, it just means more, right, Gordy? It just means more.
Always.
Man, how can folks tune in to hear all of your SEC content that you have going every single day?
Just wherever you get your podcast, search the Locked On SEC. We've had some great conversations with some guys that are coming back to play football next year and some guys that are preparing for the NFL draft. As we know, the combine's going on, tons of SEC guys. Did you see the graphic of how many guys from the SEC are represented at the NFL combine? It's like,
it's a lot more than everybody else.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. It's just more than anywhere else. And then, we see it every year in the first round of the draft. More players from the SEC are drafted in the first round than any other conference. So the dominance continues. But yeah, we'll have some conversations with some more guys as they get ready and prepare for the draft. And had a great conversation last week with Jalen Foster, the DB from South Carolina, who he was kind of making an argument. He's like, look, we talk about DBU at LSU and Florida and Alabama. You look at it right now, South Carolina's put about 5 or 6 DBs in the NFL the last handful of years. So Jalen Foster is going to be another one. So Yeah, a really good conversation with him. And, I encourage everybody, if you missed our conversation weeks ago with TJ Finley, I'm going to have to revisit that conversation at one point because, man, he's such an easy dude to root for. But, man, the more and more I start to look at it, the more I start to think maybe Zach Calzada is going to be the starter for Auburn next year. And I don't know. Is that a good thing for Auburn? We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. TJ Finley put on his Snapchat story the other day that he's like on the interstate. And he like took a picture of him driving with the dash and it had like 150 on it. And we're like, is he driving 150 miles per hour? And then you zoom in, it was like kilometers, but it's still like 93. Like, why are you taking pictures of you doing that, man? Like, what's going on? And so, he's been doing some interesting stuff on socials. And Bryan Harsin's not going to like that. I don't think. So, I mean, that's going to come into the equation, I think, somewhere.
And I threw out there just, an idea. He could end up back in the portal again, going somewhere else. I mean, we still have, as it stands right now, Zach, as we start off March, I think there's still more moves to come and more things to happen when it comes to the SEC landscape at quarterback. I think Missouri, there's a chance they're going to get Jaden Daniels from Arizona State. There's so many more dominoes that could fall here over these next couple of months.
Yeah, if I'm Finley and I realize, okay, maybe I'm not going to win the starting job, I transfer and I just go ahead and serve that year because he already used his one free one, right? So, I mean, he can go somewhere and sit and then possibly pop up in 24 and maybe be the guy. But
and there's been talk about that too. And by the way, I mean, the kid he's still 19. I mean, he's still got so many years ahead of him. But like, there's talk like, do you want to be the NCAA and be the bad guy that's going to fight somebody on them wanting to transfer and try to be academically eligible or not academic, but be eligible? Like, I feel like they've gotten so soft on that.
Maybe. I mean, we've had this conversation for years, and it's definitely trended more towards the player and more away from the NCAA, which is a good thing. But I'm never going to act like the NCAA is going to do the right thing. I will never assume that.
Well, at least in more recent years with players transferring, they've allowed more freedom than they have before.
Yeah.
And again, they're still allowing the Wild West. You can get the free transfer anywhere you want. But like, remember Justin Fields? It was like, yeah, I don't like it here at Georgia. I want to go to Ohio State. They're like, you can't go. And he goes, when I was on the baseball team, somebody called me a name. They're like, okay, fine, you can go. It's like, I mean, the bar of the acceptance on letting you just transfer, go ahead.
Fair enough. Folks, that is Chris Gordy with Locked On SEC. You can follow me on Twitter at Zac Blackerby. Read all my work at auburndaily.com. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be on Locked On Auburn. Gordy will be on Locked On SEC. This has been the Locked On Podcast Network.